The manager of the Yankees is Joe Girardi. Joe, welcome.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Joe, let me say this. As this season is now in the books, except for 4 games, you did a heck of a job with this team this year. The record won't indicate it. There's no playoffs this year, which I know is not what you want with the Yankees, but I thought keeping this team alive and what you had to go through this year, I thought you did a heck of a job with this team.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. You know, this is a hard time of year because you're starting to see everyone celebrate, and you know that you're not a part of it, and it's difficult.
It is, and I mean, we're not going to sit here and recount everything that's going on this year because we'd be here for 2 hours, but it was really, I'm sure, the most bizarre season you've ever been through, right?
Yeah, it was. It seemed like I spent half of my press conferences always talking about what people were doing in Tampa.
Right.
And they weren't with us, and that was really strange, and it was difficult for me to keep up with the guys sometimes, and you had guys that spent 2 stints on the 60-day DL, and that's extremely unusual. It was a weird season.
All right, this is a sellout crowd tonight because it's an unusual night. You're not going to the postseason, which is very rare, obviously. And there's some goodbyes tonight, and a lot more goodbyes than we even know. We'll have to formulate them all over the winter. But the 2 pronounced ones that are leaving tonight, a word first about Mariano, and then we'll get to Andy Pettitte. Mariano first.
Well, it's going to be difficult to ever replace Mo, and it's not just what he did on the field; it's what he has done off the field in the clubhouse. And coming to me the last month, telling me he has nothing to save, use me as much as you want, throwing 4 out of 5 days and wanting to pitch the 6th day. He's a real fighter. He's a fierce competitor, and we're really going to miss him.
Andy Pettitte.
Same thing, extremely fierce competitor, and I'll go back to '96. When he started that game in Baltimore and got knocked out in the 3rd inning and ended up getting the win the next day in the 15th inning, this guy has been a workhorse. This guy has got as much out of his talent as any players I've ever seen. He just knows how to pitch and knows how to compete, and he will be missed as well. And
Andy will pitch one more time down in Houston and hopefully get a win because he's never had a losing season in any year in the professional baseball. So I hate this year to be the one. And, boy, that was a tough one last week, Joe, going to get him, because he had pitched so well on Sunday. And I know he was gassed when you went and got him, but that was a tough break. It really was.
Yeah, it was. And we had so many chances, late in the game to win that game. And it was unfortunate we didn't win that game. But I think Andy Pettitte, when you talk about his career, he did this year what he's done his whole career. When the games counted the most, he's the best.
He was great down the stretch. He really has been.
And you think about that for a 41-year-old guy who's logged 150-something innings. That's truly amazing, and it just shows you the character and heart that he has.
I agree. Down the stretch, I mean, he lost 2-0, he lost 2-1, and he left 8-3 lead, 3-0 lead. I mean, he's pitched wonderfully his last 6-7 starts.
It's just who he is, and he finds a way.
All right, a couple of things. Number one, we know. I would expect Mariano will pitch the 9th tonight, no matter what the score is. We all expect that. Center field has been brought up a lot. In the next 4 days, either tonight or in Houston, will you contemplate letting Mariano fulfill his dream of playing center field for an inning?
Not tonight, because it means something tonight.
Okay.
To the game of baseball. But if Mo wants to play a day in center field and play an inning or 2, absolutely, I will let him.
Okay, so he can look forward to that in Houston, but not tonight since it's still a pennant race game, which is the right way to handle it. A second before I get to everything. Well, let me get to A-Rod first tonight. First, the report about A-Rod not going to Houston is erroneous, right?
Yes. I mean, none of us were aware of that. He had not spoken to any of us, so he's going to Houston.
Now, we know he's been hurting and stayed in his DH. Now that you're eliminated, will he stay in the lineup or not?
Well, I'm not playing him tonight.
Okay.
And we'll just go day by day and see how he feels.
Okay. Joe, a second on your future. Your contract's up. There's been talk about other teams being interested in you. First, about wanting to come back. What about you and your future? What can you tell us?
Yeah, everything I said. I've loved it here, Mike. This has been wonderful for my family and I, whether I was a player, coach, or manager. And I'll sit down and talk with Brian when the season's over. But, until we sit down, there's really nothing to report.
Do you want to come back and be manager again?
Yeah, I've loved it here,
okay,
Mike,
good.
as I've said. And, there's some decisions that I have to make in my life, and I'll sit down and talk to my wife and children like I do every year. But As I said, I love being here.
Joe, there's a lot of talk that, and we're not sure about things like whether the Yanks are going to try and get under the luxury tax next year, which has been something they've talked about at length. This is going to be a very different team. I know you haven't had much time to contemplate that, but, I mean, are you fearful about this team next year?
Well, I know there's a lot of money coming off the books, and there's a lot of places, that we have to fill some holes. I think you always talk about first and foremost building a rotation, and that's something that we're going to have to look at. So there's a lot of work to be done this offseason, but that's happened before, and the Yankees have come out and done very well. So it should be an interesting offseason.
Nova goes tonight. He has shown you a lot. He's shown us all a lot. Can Nova become a front rotation? Has he made the leap now in your mind to a front of the rotation guy?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready to put that quite on him yet. He has pitched extremely well since he came back. And, the one thing is you have to prove yourself over and over, and you have to do it throughout the course of the season. It can't be 4 months, or it can't be, 6 months, and then you have a rough 3 or 4 months. But this kid has made some great strides, and I'm proud of him for what he's done, and we need to continue to build him up and try to get more out of him.